Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Front Lounge, episode 41. We have a special guest today, Shayna Sands, an Austin, Texas-based singer-songwriter. Before we do that, make sure you join the Discord, and here's why. One, it's a really cool community of fans of ours that talk about all things Congos, but also all things not Congos. It's great. It operates by itself. We pop in every now and then, but it kind of exists as a self-sustaining organism. Number two, next week, as soon as we get round to it, we're going to do a mix or master of When You're Here. We did a live concert for a Mexico virtual concert a year or two ago, and we've been posting these to our Instagram and all of our social media, but we're going to do a release exclusively at first for the Discord users of the song When You're Here. Really cool, different version that we did on that concert. So that's for Discord users only. That'll be up in the next week or two. If you are on the Discord, you know that we like to make promises and then take a really long time to get them done, but we promise that's coming. Other than that, you can support the podcast by going to patreon.com/Congos. Make sure you follow the podcast at the Front Lounge on Instagram. That's where we're posting clips, and just stay engaged and all that stuff and help us out by sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. Our guest today, we met at Wimberley Tavern. Is that what it's called, Dylan?
Cypress Falls Tavern, I think.
Cypress Falls Tavern. I feel like this is this tiny little bar in Wimberley that is actually, we met a lot of people there. Our last guest we met there. Yeah. So without further ado, here is today's guest, Shayna Sands. Let's say hi.
Hey guys. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here, and I'm so glad I ended up in Wimberley. Just happened to be living there for a month at the time, and that was my only time there. At that tavern.
Yeah, it's a cool little place. It's like a neighborhood bar in Wood Creek, and I think we've talked about it a few times on this podcast. Two guys, they host this open mic there every Tuesday, and we haven't been there in a few months, but we will come back. But yeah, we saw you playing, and it's pretty rare, I think, that when I'm in a bar and I hear live music, where I go, I like that.
Thank you. Are you talking about me?
You probably thought I was going somewhere else with that statement, but it's a general statement that I don't like music.
If I generally, if I hear music at a bar, I go outside to where the smokers are because it's more pleasant. But
yeah. So it's cool to see you there, and then Johnny, I think DM'd you on Instagram. So
we've been trying to reach out. So tell us a little bit about where you're from. How did you end up in Wimberley and then now in Austin?
Oh, goodness. Oh, the story of ending up in Wimberley was kind of interesting, but I have been wanting to come to Central Texas for a long time, and when I started my songwriting path, I was in San Marcos, Texas, which is where Texas State is, and I went there for a year, and I lived down the road from this place called Cheatham Street Warehouse, which is a legendary songwriter circle. It's Kent Finley Songwriter Circle, but unfortunately he passed away a few years ago. Rest in peace. But his son still runs it, and that is where I got my start with writing. And I always knew that like Central Texas had this draw of these great writers, and it was just a very supportive community. So fast forward a bit, I moved around. I went to New York for like 4.5 years and just kind of discovered music in different genres that are going there, and just learned.
You're originally from Corpus Christi?
Yes. And then how did I end up? So I ended up, after New York, I was just like really exhausted from it all. And I came back to Corpus Christi, and I was again thinking I'm going to come back to Central Texas, and that's what I wanted to do. But I took one music theory class in Corpus, and the department chair said, why are you doing this? Like, you're just taking one class, and then you're trying to like skip ahead too. I was trying to skip from level 1 to 2. And I said, I want to be able to compose and communicate what I'm writing better to other musicians. And she said, major in composition then. So I stayed for 5 years. And then I couldn't wait to get here. And I finally ended up back here. And I was living in Austin, and when COVID hit, and I luckily had this songwriting festival that I played in Corpus, which it all ties in because they ended up getting connected with Central Texas songwriters. And when I came back to Austin, I knew all these people from that festival, and I was able to like get around and start playing. Long story short, I ended up in Wimberley because I had to move out of my place, and then the housing crisis, like, it's really hard to find a place.
Yeah.
And I should skip the gory details of, like, I moved into a place and it was it was uninhabitable. I didn't move in, but I took over someone's lease and I thought it was going to be habitable. And it wasn't, so I had an emergency.
What's their
thing
name?
about-
What's the address?
Oh gosh.
No.
Oh my gosh. And it was this whole thing with lawyers and everything.
Ooh.
And that was so stressful. But luckily my friend out in Wimberley, Ben, thank you, Ben, had me stay with him and just kind of like decompress from all the stuff that was going on. There was more too. It was like my van got broken into and all this other stuff. And
So a lot of good material for songs later.
yes, exactly.
So you say that Central Texas is known for this songwriting thing, and it's something you always kind of hear, and we'd heard, like, being on the road. Austin's the live music capital of the world. It's got this history to it, and I was always a bit skeptical of it because we'd always come to Austin and we'd see like 6th Street, and it's at the time it wasn't quite as, like, they call it Dirty Six now because it's crazy.
I
Just
wonder how
like,
long it's been that. It's
probably
Probably
a while.
forever.
But when we were first coming here, it didn't feel like it was as crazy as it is now. So we had a false impression of what Austin was, and it's actually out like in Wimberley or in like weird places that you wouldn't expect that this scene exists of great songwriters, musicians that obviously has existed here for a long time and is the reason that it has the legendary reputation it does.
Yeah, I feel like it's a tradition. I mean, Willie Nelson's in Texas.
Yeah, Spicewood, right? Or he was
His studio.
Cooney's Roadhouse.
Yeah. Jerry
legendary
Lewis's
place.
sisters in Wimberley, and Paul Simon's in Wimberley. Rupert Neve was in Wimberley. Rupert Neve was Dylan Congos is in Wimberley. yeah.
I just think
Danny Congos is in South Austin, right by the HEB. Yeah,
which one? The one on Brody?
the one on Brody. That's right. Yeah,
I used to live by there. Yeah.
yeah. Me and the guys
I
get
miss
together
it.
there to write songs in the produce aisles. But
I've
I
never
feel like
tried that.
Dripping Springs doesn't have quite the ring that Austin does. First of all, it's a silly name, I think, Dripping Springs.
Yeah.
I love it here. So I'm coming from a place of actually really loving living here, but it's a silly name. Like, I
Why
always
is
feel
it-
20% embarrassed to say I live in Dripping Springs.
Why?
I don't know why.
It sounds pretty to me.
the springs they're not,
They don't drip.
they don't have enough force to not, they're just dripping, like a tap is just dripping.
dripping
dripping.
spring. But
It's
isn't
something
that
about
what
the
spring-
dripping. It makes me think of like
It
a
sounds like it needs to be
alien
repaired.
movie. Yeah.
Well, to me, it's like a
You guys have
something
a
like
totally
faucet's dripping.
different,
Can you sort that out?
different paradigm, I think. But there is a festival here, and every year the Dripping Spring Songwriter Festival, and they have not had me on there yet. But
Really?
most of the songwriters that I know are in that as well, and they tend to have like a lot of the same people every year. And
I feel like didn't Mom and Dad go this year to see a couple things?
Yeah, it's big. It goes on for a couple days, right? And it's like 800
yeah, and it's free. I
artists
think.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Is the songwriting community is a bit like Nashville? Is it here?
That's why I wouldn't. I mean, nothing against Nashville. It's just not me. I like it here. It's not to me. It's what it's like about underneath here. It just feels like it's connected to the roots, to the ground, and people kind of are very humble, and they have this like camaraderie. There's this support where everyone is the most supportive music community I've ever lived in. It feels that way to me. Like, people are always giving each other gigs. They're trying to help put stuff together. It's not like cutthroat.
Yeah, so like the opposite of like.
I
in
mean, it
LA,
might be at some level, but like not really. Like,
mean,
people are really loving and like.
I've noticed that. I think it's an Austin thing, not just related to music. Like I know there's Austin now. It means a lot of things. It's like half of the people now, at least in certain parts, are from LA. So that's going to definitely be different. But they are genuinely nice. Most of the interaction I have with people are genuinely nice, open and normal. Like I don't know how to say it other than just like normal. Like they're nice, normal human beings.
They're not trying. They don't have an
they're not trying
agenda.
to do something. There's not like an ulterior motive necessarily. And we came from LA before this, which is the
Exact
polar
opposite.
opposite of that, where everyone's trying to do something. But so it's interesting to hear from you, having been in New York and various scenes like that. It is that to you.
Yeah, I wanted to move to New York because I felt like the energy was all about building and making. It just felt like the hotbed of like where things were not originated, but something about that. Like the
If you could make it there, you can
a
make
lot
it
of
anywhere.
like American culture and songs and stuff. Just and of course I was obsessed with Bob Dylan and just kind of wanted to see where he got his start and see what it was like now. And there were still some songwriters like
Did you play any of the venues that he was like in the village that he was
the
got his start at?
Gaslight. There was the Gaslight, but there's this place across the street called I forgot what it's called. I want to say. Oh, I forgot.
Like what was
The
it's
village.
McDougal Street, right?
Yeah, so right off of McDougal. So there's this songwriter that still lives there. He's been there since the 60s. And he is connected. He's an actor now, and he also writes songs. But he's connected with a lot of the like younger generations of songwriters. And there used to be a place called Vivaldi Cafe that had songwriter nights. And I met him there. And he would have people come back to his place on McDougal. And he has this like small but really lovely little apartment that's like lofted and has this really nice little like living room with all this like collector's items and amazing stuff in there and guitar from the early 50s and you could just play it and sit there and talk to him about all of it. And his name's Eric Franzen. So if you ever go,
So he's kind of seen all the eras of that little hot
he knew
spot.
he was like a contemporary of Bob Dylan. He was on a session with him or something, and he knew Dave Van Ronk. And there's actually a street there now called Dave Van Ronk Street.
I don't know who I don't know who that is.
He was he's a folkie that was really inspired by the same stuff. Like he was bigger than Bob Dylan. Like when Bob Dylan first got his start, Dave Van Ronk was like the thing, and kind of gave him a hard time. I think gave Bob Dylan a hard time. And he had a beautiful voice, very expressive, and it's very like inspired by Irish, like the Clancy brothers were all around at that time, and that whole era. Like, I think Eric thinks like, if you want to play like he knew all the people in the village were obsessed with Bob Dylan, like all the like later generations of us that are like coming to the village to try to get a taste of it.
Yeah.
He kept hearing how obsessed with Bob Dylan everyone was, and he kept saying like, if you want to play like that, just listen to the stuff that Bob Dylan listened to.
Right.
Stop listening to Bob Dylan. That's what he would say.
That's the Guthries are some of the Guthries are here in Austin, so that's what Bob Dylan was. Bob Dylan was
His
pretending to be a
granddaughter
train
works-
hopper, you know.
Oh
Like,
yeah, he was a fraud.
That's I mean that's kind of what I love about Bob Dylan is that
He didn't care.
he faked it until he made it because I love him, but sometimes when I like his more recent music, honestly I like Modern Times and Time Out of Mind and what's the latest album, Rock and Roll and Thunder or something.
I forgot what it's called.
It's really
the
good.
dancing one, the one with the dancing people on it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it's amazing. I think he's basically only improved, give or take a few Christmas albums, but like he's
That video.
yeah. But it can almost all adds to his allure for me. The fact that he's willing to fail, he fails better than other people fail. You know
But
what I mean?
also you
Bigger,
said-
be like
He faked aspects of his life. The theater, it's
Yeah.
theater. That part of show business is theater. Like the part that's not fake is the deep authenticity in his music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so who?
It's almost like a backdrop of pretense allows something real to sit
Right.
within it. Whereas people constantly trying to present authenticity, you're like that runs out real quick, you know.
Yeah.
If people try to what?
Present an idea like it's hard to even define what authenticity is. It's almost like a visceral feeling that
like
you get.
I'm authentic.
Yeah, what does
trying-
that mean? You only wear linen? Like, what does that mean? Like, it doesn't.
You don't have to speak about it if you are authentic.
Right.
It's kind of, I saw a funny meme that was like making fun of someone who has like alpha male in their Twitter profile. It's like if you have alpha male in your Twitter profile, you're probably not an alpha male. Like if you have to tell people, "Hi, I'm Dylan Congress, alpha male," you're probably not. You know?
I can't actually believe someone was doing that.
A bunch of people do.
I guess I can believe. I
Yeah,
can believe anything,
right.
but yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're saying on the chat here, Skylab says Dripping Springs is a pretty name. Yeah, it's perspective. Sometimes when you live in something, you think it's funny.
Yeah, Team Boba Fett said, isn't dripping slang now? Yep, drip means style or bling or swag. Yeah. Yeah, so it's Dripping Springs.
Hell yeah.
Dylan Kong is alpha male confirmed.
It's to me, it's like a onomatopoeia almost. Like
Dripping Springs? Yeah.
like hear it.
Yeah.
It's a great time. This is where
It's not really an onomatopoeia.
this is the where the plumbers Illuminati lives in Dripping Springs.
Oh no, we're going down this dark road again.
What's this with this? What does alpha male come from? Is it from wolves that they used to say that?
I think it's like a biological term they use because in dogs or wolves, there's they follow one dominant.
Yeah,
male.
I mean, I think they kind of changed their opinion about that because they're way more collaborative than
Yeah.
people initially thought. But then they also, it's like the pendulum swung all the other way where people pretended dominance doesn't exist. But I have proof that it exists because Willow, my dog, submits to every dog that she meets. She wants to be friends with any living animal. She will just
Maybe it's fluid. It's more fluid. Like
Yeah,
sometimes there's this dog is the alpha, and they're constantly fighting to be it.
Yeah, they may have like roles like in that sense, like like an electrician shouldn't be the alpha male when there's plumbing to be done.
I
So
know
maybe
my
the guy
dog.
should have put in his profile. Sometimes alpha male when the situation is appropriate and I have the necessary skills.
No, he should have been banned from Twitter.
Yeah, probably.
He's like, I choose my wife's dessert for her at the restaurant. That's how alpha male I am.
Team Boba Fett says, at least it's not moist springs. That's true.
That
That's
is so true.
Have you ever met people that have visceral, like physical reactions to words or images? Like there's a really common thing, like sponges. I don't know what the name of it is for, or what the name for it is. Sponges that have like little holes in them.
Oh, I've heard of that.
People some people feel physically ill if they see it, and I've known a handful of people like that where
What?
they look at a sponge or they look at coral reefs. It's really bizarre. If someone's on the chat and they know what that is,
It's like it's
didn't know.
trypophobia or something.
that
Wow,
one,
these
that one
people are
through. That's
geniuses.
fast. Yeah. What do you say? How do you pronounce that?
Trypophobia. Is it fear of holes?
I think
It's like a
here
certain.
we are
it's
going
a s-
into holes and moist together.
It's a certain kind of shape.
What is the root of that word? though?
Trypophobia?
Trypophobia.
Yeah. Anyway, it's really interesting. I had a
Fear of I mean, when I see tripe, it kind of
Skylab
grosses me
says
out.
fear of many little holes.
Fear of many little holes.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Because who knows what's inside? There's
Yeah.
so many.
It probably is something like that. It's something biological where there's, I don't know, mold or fungus or something like
Yeah.
that's
Or
not
snakes.
healthy. Lives in snakes.
Small, tightly packed holes.
My grandmother's terrified of snakes. She'll like scream if you like show her a picture of them.
Oh, even with a picture.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think so. She might. She's 102 now though, so I don't know if she would scream.
She's still alive.
Yes,
Wow.
she was born in 1920.
Jeez.
She's gonna be 103 this year.
That's crazy.
And what's her like cognizance and
She's still really
mental
sharp.
faculties.
She was a nurse in the 40s in New York, actually, which is like why a lot of my family was rooted there, and like I have some affinity with it. But she studied a lot. Her mental faculties are really great. Her memory is sometimes better than mine. I don't know how, but like only a couple years ago, she would be able to say everybody in her graduating class. And then
Jeez.
she would like recite, and she would say like, "Oh, this person." I don't even remember their names. Like Ruth, this person, that. And then afterwards, she would say, "And they're all dead now."
Well, yeah. There's no one that she knows that's
Not-
of her friend.
not
right?
really.
But I guess
I don't think so. No,
that she grew up with. Yeah, that's
No.
an elite club.
no.
It's
yeah.
a
Centenarians.
unique perspective that centenarians get because they watch everyone they know die. You know, that must be so bizarre, really.
Challenging,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I was talking about this the other day with Derek when we were driving because we were trying to. We were talking about someone else who was in their hundreds or their 90s. I think Amber's, my wife's got two grandmothers right now that are 98 and 99, I think. And we're trying to fathom what it would be like in 75 years. It's unfathomable to think about for yourself what your life might be like, what your inner experience might be like. And I kind of started to think about how we don't even have the ability to truly transport ourselves and our feelings or our inner feelings back to how we were 10 years ago. Like when I think of myself in high school, I think of myself only visually, essentially. I think of myself as certain memories, certain experiences. They have tiny little tastes of feelings and thoughts, but I can't feel
Be
how
that
I
person.
was
Yeah.
back in. I can't feel exactly what I was, and so that's something that already happened in life. Like I lived that, and
Yeah.
now to
I
think
have had
about what's
a-
going to happen in 75 years from now.
I've had a weed-induced experience where I saw myself as an old man, as in viscerally saw myself as an old man, and it was
Are you sure that wasn't DMT?
no, it was just weed, and it was pretty shocking. And we were talking about this the other day, like the idea that fear creeps in anytime you're about to see the truth, and I was definitely afraid. So it felt true, you know. I just had a clear picture of myself as an old man. But then the way to access the feelings of when you're younger, I think, are through like, nieces, like when Eve or some little kid, when they do that kind of sigh thing, and they get frustrated, and it brings back memories of how strong feelings
Yeah.
were back then. You know.
yeah, we were
have a
saying,
totally different
smell.
experience.
Oh, you do?
I
Well,
think
sorry.
so.
Before you do, that must be Jesse on the chat there. Our other brother is not here.
Hi.
Says 10 years, they'll try 20. Yeah, that's true. Like I keep thinking, whenever I talk about high school years, I say 10 years ago.
Right.
But it's closer to 20.
Yeah.
I tend to like really viscerally remember my younger, like kindergarten, not so much, and some of my early 20s, but I found it interesting what you said about like being fearful before you feel the truth. I don't know if that's true because like, what if you just have a bad dream and that's fearful?
I think there's a different sensation. It's not all fear is the same, and also then you can analyze it afterwards and say, well, is this just bad imagination or was there truth in this? I think it's like
You mean the truth is just scary in general?
not necessarily, but I think truth that you're hiding from is scary. There's truth that you accept, and that needn't be scary. But everyone has
Is
truth.
there?
Yeah.
Is there? Is there?
How you like you can get into some semantics thing forever about whatever all of this stuff means, but the visceral sensation I have is that people are avoiding the truth or certain truths all the time, and one of them is that you're going to get old and die, and that's for me. That in itself intellectually is not scary, but the immediate picturing of it did induce fear because I think you're secretly avoiding that thought so often.
sometimes it comes on more as a feeling than the thought, and that's
Yeah.
when it's scary. Like I've had the same thing, not just with weed, but particularly where you just feel the time slipping away, and that how short and heavy it is. Like I've actually had the feeling of like
Mortality.
like holy shit, this is just it's rushing through my fingers, and that's terrifying when you feel that you're like, oh, I'm wasting time, you know.
You were saying that you have a different experience when you either get transported back or you think about kindergarten, like that age,
Yeah, for some reason I could.
versus high school or versus other ages.
I think so a little bit. Like there's lately everything's been a bit of a blur because I've had such a crazy year. But like it seemed like all throughout my 20s, I was very, very connected to my childhood. And I was also a nanny in New York. That's what they call it there. I just guess they call it that here too. But it just felt like more appropriate. Like I
Are
don't
you
know.
picturing like
A New York
the nanny, like this
yeah,
TV show, The Nanny?
And I always felt like I could relate or just try to create experiences that I felt like I could understand their experience for some reason. And so I could be very childlike. And just the other day, I was on this trip with a friend, and we were waiting somewhere, and we had a chess set, and I like knocked all the pieces off and was very satisfied by it. And I was like, let's set it up again. And just to knock it down, it felt like that Zen Buddhist thing, you know. I don't know what the Zen Buddhists feel, but I related it to that. Yeah. And he was just watching me, and he's like, you're like a 5-year-old right now. And
Well, there's a Greek tradition which I used to think was stupid with the plate breaking. But now I think it's related to that. I think it's like some maintenance of childlike behavior because they just break plates during a party, you know? And I don't know if that's what it's for or it's to kind of talk about the ephemeralness of everything. But
I mean, I could see it being something in the realm of like an external way to think about detachment, is to like not think that everything's
but
so
it's also
precious.
objectively fun to break stuff.
I remember being excited to pretend to be a Power Ranger.
Right.
You don't remember that?
Oh,
Not
no.
exactly
Power Rangers,
that, but I
but,
mean,
yeah.
I mean, I would put on
Wolverine, yeah.
I would put on the Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man outfits all at once. I would have the cape from Superman, the Batman pants, and the Spider-Man shirt. Like I remember that really well. I think what it is the older you get, the more time you spend wanting to be somewhere else. You get older, and very little of the time do you want to be where you are. And as a kid, all you want to do is basically whatever you're doing. Is if it's playing, of course. Like a lot of times, if it's maybe as you get starting to do chores or if you do homework, but as a kid, if you're playing or you're exploring or you're playing outside or doing something like that, that's all you want to do, and you're right there. You're not thinking about where you want to be. So I think you have stronger sensations of yourself. That's how I feel, because I have vivid memories of being a kid.
Yeah, but
and then like the older I get, this just becomes like one big blur
let's say you
of
go
who
for
I
a
am.
bike ride or something, like, and you do something you did as a kid. I used to do this game with a friend called Scavengers, and we would go swimming, and then to dry off, we'd ride on our bikes around the neighborhood and pick fruit from people's trees and like put them in our bags, and then go like hide behind some bush and pretend it was our camp or our whatever. We were living like that, and that's how we had to survive. And still, if I'm riding my bike in a neighborhood that like kind of resembles my childhood neighborhood, I can kind of like, I don't know, it's like this weird high. I feel like, oh, I remember that or something.
Yeah.
I
So
feel
you can
very
viscerally
sort of. I get in
retaste
this
that
like
feeling.
Yeah, a little bit. And I do feel like I access my inner child a lot. I'm like constantly giggling or being on this weird, like super high laughter thing.
I think it's totally possible. I think probably what you're saying is that something about the progression of a life is that we
I still feel sorry. I still
the chat says that went through on the chat says, be honest, you still steal fruit from trees.
You know, that's not that's not wrong. That's not 100% wrong. Yeah.
As your life goes on, your relationship with time changes, it seems. And that's so you could act, to be childlike wouldn't necessarily even be related to doing the things you used to do as a child. Well, I get what you're saying, that if you knock over the chessboard, it reminds you of, like, I'm watching my daughter do that. She loves to build little towers of blocks and break them. But that if you could change how you interact with time, you'd be closer to the way a child interacts with time. They don't have the same sense. Like, it's obvious when you look at a kid, they don't think about time the way we think about time. They don't understand it conceptually or the way we do yet, but they don't even act the way we do with it.
I don't think it's possible to access that exact same relation to time. And they even say, like, something about the closer you are to the center of the earth, the slower time goes.
Huh.
Like, literally, your feet will age slower than.
Yeah, right.
You mean, like, I thought
because your head is moving faster. So
right.
there's they're making, like, you know how they sent a plane up to test when they developed atomic clocks, they could verify aspects of relativity by measuring the difference in the speed of time in the atomic clocks in a plane. So whoever's making that argument is like,
It's
it
really
applies
minute.
to that. Yeah, I mean,
Well, there's a statistic, right? Short people live longer in general.
probably.
But maybe as we're spiraling out into space, we're in a different. There's no way to relate, or there's no way to compare our reality of time with a child's reality of time, and how this child today might be experiencing time different than we did.
Mm-hmm. Or
There's no
even
way.
the Earth as a whole. I don't know enough about that. I would like to hear what some sort of physicist says about this, but Rupert Sheldrake's idea is that he calls them the habits of the universe as opposed to the laws.
Right.
And he thinks it's a very kind of human-centric phrase, even law. You know, it comes from society and it comes from law and the kind of artificial governance, and it may not relate to natural laws. But he was talking about the constants and like and time and the speed of light as it's related to time being a constant that is agreed upon now. But they used to have all sorts of discrepancies. They would measure the speed of light around the world every year, and they would watch the shift of it, and they would call them kind of clerical errors or errors in measuring the speed of light. And his argument was, well, what if it's not an error? What if it's changing? You know, and what if this thing that we're labeling a constant is not constant? And that makes you wonder, because like the last few years, time has accelerated. It can't purely be because as you get older, time speeds up. Maybe there's not a single person I've met to.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, as we go through the time continuum, but we're not. I don't know. We don't know for sure.
That's a.
How can we?
I like how Matthew McConaughey.
Let's do a test.
Yeah,
Matthew McConaughey's only two famous lines from Matthew McConaughey, other than like "I drive a Lincoln" or whatever, is well, you know, the high school girls thing. I get older, they stay the same age, and then it's. Well, yeah, that's what he's known for. No, I didn't say it. And then from True Detective, time is a flat circle. So I feel like he aged into a more philosophical version of
that same thing.
Wait, he said time is a flat circle?
In his character in that detective show. You know,
Interesting.
Yeah.
We talk about time so much on this podcast.
Really?
Because it's a
That's
fascinating
an
topic.
obvious point as well. Each year is a smaller and smaller ratio of your total life as you get older. Right. And
Right.
Oh, wow. That's a good point. Never thought of it like that. I like that.
I'm going to switch it up and we'll go to a couple silly news stories and then we'll get to playing some music.
We missed a comment from Burb who said he hopes to make it to his hundreds just based on spite, which I thought was great. And then Teen Boba Fett, speak for yourself. As a child, I kept a tight-knit schedule.
So check this out. Here is... Oh, no, let me fix my camera. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
What are those numbers at the top? The gift boxes?
Oh, so on Twitch, it's owned by Amazon, and you can gift subscriptions per month, it's a $5 subscription per month, which allows you to watch the stream without ads, and you can gift it to people. And so, Say My Name Friend has gifted 20 subscriptions to other fans over the last year or so, and then
it shows
DJ Gun. Yeah, so you get you get a little sticker at the top of the stream.
I would have never guessed that ever.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's we have some fans who come in and they either can't pay for it or they don't want to pay for it that week, and someone throws them a bone.
Yeah.
Cool.
So check this out.
I like that system.
Lab-grown meat moves closer to American dinner plates. I believe it's past some FDA or USDA thing. This year we're going to be getting lab-grown meat.
I mean, can you eat like golden retrievers as well?
Yeah, who is it?
No. No. No.
Perfect timing that she went there.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about this story.
We didn't say Malinois grown meat.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say I think it's fucking dumb.
I think
100 years from now, maybe it'll be normal the way we look at
Everything.
hybridized fruit or
I'm
whatever.
so used to eating fake
Willow.
meat that I don't know how I'd feel about that. I just feel like why even?
Like, why?
Are you? So you're vegetarian, or mostly, or something, or kind of, or
I've been at times, but I'm not strictly vegetarian.
yeah. That I mean, for me, what is an interesting idea
It doesn't
is
seem different than all the other stuff we eat. Like everything feels fake.
Yeah, look, that's a very good point.
yeah, that's a fair point. I think like what's interesting to me is I think under the guise of ethics, they're pursuing this, and I'm sure there are a portion of people who really do believe that it's more ethical to grow flesh or something, but it's mostly just profit incentive. They're just looking for a cheaper way to make meat, and then it's also like, what is the ethics of? So you could say like bringing a cow into Earth to torture it in a factory farm. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. But if you bring a cow in and then you kill it 3 years later,
It's environmental. It's a big problem.
Environmental?
I think, there's like a methane problem with all the gas that they pass or something when they eat grass. There's actually like a big carbon footprint from them.
yeah,
I
but
believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but
No, I think that's widely accepted. They do emit a lot of methane. I just think it's always framed in a funny way because no one's arguing, or no sane person's arguing for factory farming. Like, there's factory farming, or you could be doing like our last guest, Ben, was on last week, who raises a cow, kills the cow, feeds
but it
his
also
family
converts
for a
all of
year,
his soil and then all the
converting
plants.
his soil.
Yeah.
Like, there's a way to do
It's a
almost
net.
anything that is sustainable for both the environment. It's sustainable for your own personal ethics or morals and that. And like, so it's always this false argument. Like, we either have to eat lab grown meat or the whole world's going to go to shit. And it's like, no, that it just seems like it's a false argument because you know that at the end of this day, like, it's going to be Monsanto selling you some shitty lab grown meat that was the same people selling you the shitty real factory farm.
This
meat.
reminds me of a different kind of ethical thing that, I mean, I think all of this is just kind of self-calming. But I met a lady who had a raccoon in her ceiling, and she's like, I got this dilemma because, I got to get rid of this raccoon. And I said, well, you could just trap it. And she said, yeah, I looked that up too, but raccoons, they kind of like dominate their nests. So if I go drive it down to Buda and drop this thing off, it's going to kind of be like beaten up or excluded, and it's probably going to die anyway. So I'm like, yeah, I'm torn between killing it or releasing it. And in my mind, it's kind of like whatever you decide, it's good to think about, I guess, but it's kind of self-calming. You're in some way you're trying to avoid nature. You're trying to avoid the fact that nature is metal, and nature is, and I would leave it to go. I would say like, I don't mind if you go get tortured for 2 weeks. That's part of life, and you chose to nest in my house, and now you're paying the price. But I wouldn't want to end its life prematurely myself.
Yeah, look, sometimes it's really annoying the conversations you have to have with yourself about all the things that you're thinking about in life, because I have similar conversations about flies or certain bugs I kill in the house. If it's big enough, I like collect it and throw it outside.
It's all a
And I have
form of self-calming,
Yeah, like
yeah.
this endless debate about this thing, and it's like it's at a certain point you actually feel like a crazy person. You're like, why am I fucking having all this like tribunals in my head about whether I should kill a cockroach or not? Like at a certain another point of it is like, fuck off, you're in my house. Like I live here too. You know what I mean? Like
There's I think it's in Yogananda's book where he's learning how to meditate, and one of his biggest problems is he can't deal with the mosquitoes. And he's asking his teacher, like, what do I do about these mosquitoes? They're just insane. And if anyone's watching and I'm getting the book wrong or the story wrong, go fuck yourself. The point is going to be made. Anyway, whoever is the teacher says it's not about the nonviolence or whatever. It's not necessarily about having to choose between killing or not killing the mosquito. It's the impulse to like end a life out of frustration or end a life out of annoyance, and that whether you kill it or not, if you could catch that moment of automatic reaction to that impulse, that would be a miracle. That would be some transcendence of your normal state. So, and that's how most of our lives are spent. Is just like, this bug's annoying us, this bug scares us, this bug looks cute, this bug whatever. So we make decisions based on that.
Yeah.
I think that same concept about the intention, like, I don't feel right killing things if it's not harming me. It just doesn't, it feels very selfish.
Yeah.
So I would feel like even if I was really annoyed by a cockroach in a room and I was trying to go to sleep, this happened to me where I was living in this house and there was a cockroach that literally was flying. They would fly and like try to attack you. And I was going to sleep and all of a sudden I hear whack, 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 whack. And like it just disgusted me so bad. And I could not sleep until I stopped everything to like kill it. But that was because I was afraid I wasn't going to sleep. But I don't remember if I killed it, to be honest. I will say, though, I don't like doing it, and I wouldn't want to do it. I probably haven't done that in a really long time.
You mean you didn't like kill it and then taxidermy it and put it on your wall?
No, but I have grown a lot. I was really terrified of cockroaches at one point in my life. I don't know why. But I would stand on the couch and like call a friend. Because they were attacking me.
It's like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
It was this one house that it had a lot of cockroaches. I actually have a song about this house. It's called 3417. You can find it on Spotify.
Let me go to another quick story. We'll just kind of breeze through these and we'll get to some music. They have invented a new spray that they're working on that I'll skip through all this. It's a bacteriophage, like a virus that eats bacteria that they're now going to start spraying on meat and romaine lettuce. And it's like another one of those, just wash the fucking vegetables, guys, and stop growing them in like massive piles of pig shit. It's like they're constantly trying to fix problems that are like of their own creation.
Gosh.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's improved means towards an unimproved end.
Yes.
That's a kind of...
Have you seen the it's from some cartoon, or a meme or something, guys, and it's used for everything, for like all sorts of arguments and discussions. It's the guy with a hole in his hand putting his hand over the water coming out of the big cylinder. And it's like, when you're trying to solve the problem, that's what it seems like they're constantly doing. This thing is, so they're growing their lettuce in literal sewage sludge. Mm-hmm. And then they're selling you a product to get the bacteria off the lettuce. Just stop growing it in fucking sludge.
Yeah. It's
the worst, one of the worst words. But
Sludge?
It's a good word, but it's...
sludge.
dripping sludge.
Yeah. It's one of the... It's a nasty...
Okay, then last news story for the day is
The rise of...
ChatGPT wrote a paper and or I guess, I don't know if they did the whole coursework or whatever. They got a B grade on an MBA paper at Wharton. And these people that are studying it now believe it's not too long until it's going to be able to pass the bar exam, which is like, this is one of those like hype stories right now. Chat GPT, this open AI, it's all hype that's going on, but I think it's actually real. Like, this is not being overblown, the impact that this open AI and things like chat GPT are going to have on people. Like, it's insane, the things that they're going to be able to be doing with this. And I saw one interesting quote from this article was saying that AI is not going to replace humans. It's going to replace humans that don't use AI, meaning you're going to have to adopt these tools into your life, or you will be left behind in most instances.
Well, I mean,
It's already like that, isn't it? A little bit.
Oh yeah, it feels that way.
I think the transition period of any time is obviously painful for, we're obviously worried about it because we're dumb musicians, but like the transition period is painful. If you're making horse and buggies and cars come out, that's painful because you may have dedicated your life to a truly advanced skill that gets replaced.
Yeah.
But can you imagine not having to do paperwork? Can you?
I'm going to push back on that.
Yeah, push back. Yeah, unpack some stuff here.
I'm going to unpack that because every technological advancement that was meant to make menial tasks go away has only increased them. So it just seems like they're inescapable. You cannot escape menial tasks.
That's kind of like philosophy. I just want to, without getting all philosophical about it, can you imagine not doing paperwork?
Yeah, I can, but I'm saying, I'm not even getting philosophical. I'm saying, like, when the first PC came out and they're like, look, a spreadsheet. You don't have to run your ledgers on like an old giant piece of paper. And now fucking look at us. Like,
I don't have to imagine it because I don't do it for like 11 and a half months of the year. And then for 2 weeks, I want to kill myself.
I feel like some of the people watching are going to think, paperwork? Like, why are you doing paperwork?
That's true. Why?
I mean, it's paper mache.
Like taxes and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, but a lot of that is...
Well, because this was about like legal work and that kind of stuff. Like the first application of this might be literally like filing taxes. Right. So I saw someone say, are they working on tax GTP? Because it will put accountants out of business.
No way are they working on that because they want that to be
turbo.
purposefully opaque and all right. What I think we should do is play. Shayna came over earlier before we did this and recorded 2 songs of hers. Let's play those, and we can get into talking about them. If you want to, you don't have to talk about them if you want to leave it mysterious. But let's get into those. We'll do 1 or 2 more interesting clips I found on the internets, and So this is 2 songs by Shayna.
Sunflower picked up on the hill, sitting on the windowsill. I was wild, picked and tamed, just like the flower in your vase, just like the flower in your vase. Torn down at the base, you smiled to my face while you killed me at the core. Just like the flowers that we gave were torn since home. How could love grow where the ground is gone? Picked to put on display, just to perish all in just like flowers always do. It might look pretty, but life ain't lived if it's fed for one man's pleasure, and that's it. Darling, you lie all the time when you tell me your love is real. Just in case you ever thought and wondered how that feels. Think of living in a cage. Someone's hiding the door and smiling to your face while they kill you at the core, just like a flower in your vase. I came to you, pen in hand, standing in my own way, over the hill for that shame that I still didn't know. I still didn't know my name. I started young, bright-eyed like you, searching every page, every letter for a clue, following the signs and deja vus. And look how far I came without even knowing my place. We were out in the flood, as I understood. You were just setting sail, like some kind of miracle. We met in the dark, when I thought the light had failed. You asked me who I am, and I desperately explained that I didn't know. But all that I wanted was to change. You looked at me and I saw your eyes read my essence, clear as day. It was as if we knew that's all there was. it met us there, though our bodies had not touched. Our voices became one song. It was beautiful joy, beautiful joy, beautiful joy in the name of beautiful joy, beautiful joy, beautiful joy.
We're going to close up on Shayna because you were struggling to watch yourself there, and we're all going like, "Why?" It looks and it sounds great, but I know that we know the feeling. Having to watch yourself back can be difficult. Do you not? You were saying you don't often watch or listen to yourself in that way.
No, I usually like. I mean, sometimes I feel like people capture something that I was thinking, okay, they luckily like they captured a good moment, but it's just I don't expect. First of all, I'm in my own world, and like when I sing a song, especially that one, I really transport to another place. And then I don't realize at all that it really looks like I'm dying, like I'm struggling to live while I'm performing. Like I had no, like sometimes I do this thing where I'm like, and I didn't know that I was doing that. It's just, I was just imagining something. And then all of a sudden I see it and I'm just like getting all hot, turning bright red and going,
Well, you think about all artists in the 60s or 70s, even when they became huge artists, like you'd see yourself if you wanted to, you wouldn't, because you'd be on the show performing. There weren't replays necessarily in the 60s.
They had monitors, I think.
Yeah, but I'm saying like nowadays, and in fact, this is a good segue to this, what I wanted to show you, because this ties in directly to this problem I have with musicians that look at the camera when they perform.
Yeah.
And so here's a solution for them. NVIDIA, chip company, has released this new thing, AI, that makes you always looking at the camera. It's AIing your eyes. So watch this.
Check this out. At no point in this video am I actually looking at the camera. This is a brand new bit of technology called eye contact that's been developed by NVIDIA. It's currently in beta and it uses machine learning AI technology to make it look as if I'm looking straight down the lens, and I'm not. And this feels like magic.
Wow.
So it means that you can sit on a works Zoom meeting and you look really engaged and you look as if you're listening to whoever's speaking. But in actuality, you can just be sitting on your phone, you know, watching me live at twitch.tv/1030 if you'd like to. Because I'm live right now, if you want to come and see me play with this brand new technology. I'm now looking at the lens and I'm looking away from it and I'm looking back at it and I'm looking away for it. I'm live right now, twitch.tv/10.
That fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That is really realistic.
Yeah, that
Oh my
scary.
gosh. That is really scary because what if like it's like I'm trying to think of the reverse of that.
Well, what you could do is you say you were watching yourself back and you didn't like some of the facial expressions, or you felt like you were like pretend like you were looking like you were struggling to survive. You could just get one of these AIs to put the perfect performer's smile on your face constantly.
Well,
They have that. There's an
real
Instagram
life eye
filter for that.
contact is going to be a kind of like this rare commodity, and if you make real life eye contact in the future, people are going to be like, "Whoa, he can do it!"
Yeah,
It's
can do it.
already a rare commodity.
yeah.
Okay, so
Wow.
we I think we all basically agree that the Instagram musicians that look at you while they're playing, there's something weird about that.
Well,
But this guy in my book gets a pass.
I'm getting anxiety about this because Can you imagine like having Zoom meetings, say there's another pandemic or something, and you don't even know if you're making eye contact with people, and like you're like
I'm getting anxiety about the next pandemic.
yeah, like like on the lockdown, you're like
Yeah.
the only hope you have is like eye contact with people on
Well,
Zoom.
dude, I heard Mark Zuckerberg talking about this in in his metaverse, that's the biggest problem they have is eye contact. It's very hard to get in their virtual reality sets eye contact to work. So it's one of the major things that they're working on is eye tracking, so that when you're in a Zoom meeting, they can do this, not fake version. They're trying to figure it out in a real way, so that when you look at someone, your avatar reacts correctly. Like because it's a weird thing. Like every Zoom meeting you're in, everyone's looking.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's not as weird as like fake looking at you, but it's.
Well, I mean, we used to do that with Max on the bus. That was he. He had that character where he just when you're talking to this, I'll do it to you. You'll see it'll make you very uncomfortable. You look like kind of at the inside of a person's earlobe, and you just talk to them like that, and you say, "Hey, Shayna, how's it going?"
Oh
Like,
my God.
weirds you out, right? if you just offset your eye contact by a little bit,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, so
the metaverse feels like that 24/7.
yeah. So this guy gets a pass, even though he looks at the camera a lot because he's pretty fucking crazy. Jazz piano player.
But he also looks away from the camera.
No, he does a lot of videos.
Wait, I'm confused. Oh, this is the fake one. Wait.
No. This is just.
I'm just saying he's an example of these Instagram musicians that are constantly looking at the camera, and usually I hate it, but he's so fucking good. I'm like,
No,
fine, do what
the
you want to
worst
do.
is like
I see.
Is like that guy that Tony sent. It's like like white boy neo soul,
Yeah.
with the
Like,
yeah, and they look at the camera like that, like
Yeah.
they're trying to seduce whoever's on the other end indiscriminately. It's like you don't care who's on the other end. You just want to have sex with anyone who's on the other end of
This
that camera.
is for you, Grandma.
Yeah.
Some people think of Instagram, I think, as like you're talking to your audience, or like you're almost on like a video chat kind of vibe. So if you're going to play, you're thinking like, hi guys. Like that's probably what's going on with them.
What I think what it is they're looking at themselves, right? Because the camera's set up, so they're looking like that, and that's what makes it so creepy. Is that they're slowly, like that one guy, he's falling in love with himself in real time. This guy's kind of just checking out what it looks like.
yeah, no, yeah. I'm not. He's great. At least his playing is great, and it's cool. It was like didn't have any followers, and because
That
he's so
first,
good.
I came across that first video that you played of him soloing with both hands.
It's a little weird.
He's like, I'm tickling. Tickling the keys.
It's called a 36251 tickle.
The other thing that's weird about his videos is he's got them flipped. So you'll see his right hand move and it's going down. You're like, why are the notes going higher, but it's
right,
going
right.
up? All right, let's jump to music for the week, our songs that we picked. I was watching a television program. I can't remember what it was. And I came across this band that was used in the show. They're called Dur Band. And the song is Tajir Wa Ila. And they're a band from Somalia that later end up recording in Ethiopia. And it sounds like that description. It sounds like Ethiopian music. A lot of
Our
stuff.
previous guest was a Somalia.
And
Somewhat.
really, really cool stuff. It's that kind of 70s influenced American funk, but going through the filter of East Africa. And just it's like a gold mine for hip hop samples. I feel like I don't feel like I've heard anyone sampling this specific band, but it's like if I was a hip hop producer, I'd be like, all right, that's my next 20 beats is going to be sampling this stuff. And then Lyric.
I was reading a little bit about your father's history about that. He was called like the first person to use a sample.
They
yeah,
were
on, like on a commercial record or something like that, because it was a lot of it at the time. But I think
there was some like commercial success element to it.
yeah, they had a certain threshold of commerciality that they put
Because there were
in
people,
Guinness Book of
people at
World
the
Records.
BBC doing it like, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish his. He was like ahead of his time. He was like, and also with programming and that kind of stuff. But there are people at BBC doing it like 15, 20 years before that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a commercial aspect to it. So my lyric for this week, I love Nina Simone, and I only came across this song fairly recently called "I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free."
Ooh, I play that one all the time.
Oh, you do? Cool.
Yes.
So it's written by Billy Taylor, I think is the name of the songwriter. And for me, this is a really cool thing because often on these discussions about lyrics, we talk about, particularly with when I pick songs, like the poetic aspect to things and like kind of putting things in the form of metaphor and analogy and like abstracting concepts. And this I thought was cool, this lyric, because it literally just says it, and yet it's still poetic. The lyric is, I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I should say 'em loud, say 'em clear for the whole the whole round world to hear. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart, remove all the bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me, then you'd see and agree that every man should be free. And it's like so on the nose, like 5-paragraph essay in one aspect, and then it's not. You know, like it's cool to see a lyric that's just like,
Direct.
this is what I'm thinking
Yeah.
and feeling, and I'm saying it as I think and feel it. I'm not talking about some.
Yeah, but you know, like
the-
the one of the biggest differences is if when you hear Nina Simone sing it, she has one of the most like emotionally evoking
Yeah.
voices ever. I mean, imagine Michael Bublé singing that.
I'd rather not.
It's I know it. I think that song particularly has a lot to do with her like civil rights activism, and she maybe in a sense it's almost similar to the where I transport myself to this thing. She transports herself to that all the times that she was mistreated, and she's probably channeling that. That's what I feel when I hear her, is her channeling her experience and her being so real and her anger. I love her music
Yeah.
because I can relate, but I feel her anger. Like, I wish that you knew how it would feel to be me. It's so like not sarcastic, but I guess.
No, yeah, I know what you're saying. That it's coming from a deeply personal. Even though it's interesting that she didn't write the song, but obviously she can relate entirely to the subject matter.
Just like Elvis, didn't
Yeah.
write any of his songs.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it definitely, the performance makes it, because like you said, if Michael Bublé was doing it, it wouldn't have quite the gravitas that it would have. But at the same time, it's still cool to see a lyric that's so straight and yet is able to evoke emotion so well, you know. What do you got this week, Dylan?
Same thing. I was looking down I couldn't find a song, so I looked down my Shazam, and I've got this song. I think it's called Fool's Gold, and the artist is Yamlo Moshek. We'll put it up a link there, so I don't have to spell it. I think it was from that show Rami that I Shazammed it from. Really good track. Got that cool egg rolling groove to it, you know. Dum, 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 dum.
Yeah.
And then for lyrics, I had this David Bowie song that from "I Would Be Your Slave." But then I heard Shayna's song, and I actually want to change it because the one little lyric stood out to me, and so she's got a line in there. I just wrote it down, so it's probably not exactly right. But you asked me who I am, and I desperately explained that I didn't know, but all I wanted was to change. Is that close enough?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay, I thought that was a great lyric.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is, I think we all basically felt that at one point, which is that we don't know who we are, but we don't want to be the way we are.
I think that summarizes my entire opus. Just the same song over and over, poorly trying to
I've never
explain
felt that.
It's interesting. Oh, I don't know if I should explain or not, but
Yeah, whatever you.
where did that? So the whole song came out of this one moment and just all these emotions are channeled from that one moment of eye contact with somebody, where I'm so glad that this happened. So the song actually was done under pressure because I was in this like songwriting group where we had to write a song in a week and stuff, and I would not have written it if it wasn't for that. But that moment happened during that time, and during that eye contact with this person, we were laughing about something, and I felt like in the laughter, we looked at each other and had this understanding. And I said, how do I explain that moment of understanding? Before I got there to that moment, he literally asked me who I was. So this actually comes from an actual story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was just where I was at the time. But I'm glad that it came out because I also felt like this has been a thing that's been going on for a long time. Like, I feel like maybe I never will completely know who I am. And it felt like a right place to put it in that song. But the song is also about finding who you are. And so...
there's a scene in a movie called The Lost Wave, a Peter Weir movie, one of our favorite directors. And it's this murder mystery that takes place in like it involves Aboriginal people in Australia, and there's like this conflict between Aborigines and the Australian law system and all this kind of stuff. But there's a scene of a guy asking someone, "Who are you?" And there's a lot of eye contact, and I don't know how he did that, but he conveyed that feeling even from that movie. It kind of like, I just remember my hair kind of like going up like that. Just it felt directed at me, you know, like or the audience in general. This guy asking, it was a little more ominous than what you're describing, but I think there's a thread there in terms of that question, like landing on your consciousness, or you know, you being actually open to it, as opposed, because it sounds like a cliche or sounds like a trite thing, but it's obviously not. You know, it's obviously the most real thing.
The Who didn't think so. The Who thought it was a good thing to sing about. Who are you?
Who? Owls don't think so. They love asking that question.
Are we going around the
Yeah.
circle? So there's a song by my friend Chris, and it's called I think it's called, oh, I forgot the name of it right now. Standing in the Rain. No matter where I go, I always feel more at home in the rain. And the song opens up really powerfully, and it says, I have love in my heart and a fistful of rage, and I bury them down until they break out like bees from a cage. And I just, of course, the way he said it was sung, it was beautiful, and I could just picture that moment, like a cinematic moment of somebody like just going through like a heartbreaking thing, and no matter where you go, you just feel like comfort of like that, having that rain, like something kind of sad that you could relate with and just identify with throughout life, I guess. Like if you've had a lot of struggles, no matter where I go, I always feel more at home in the rain. And it sounds kind of dark, but I wish I could remember more of the. It's a brand new song.
What's his name? Chris
Robeson. So he hasn't put it out yet.
Okay.
And he's going to put it out soon, but it just really hit my belly, and I loved it.
Yeah, the Young writes a lot about your shadow, or you know, I don't know if you've ever read any of that stuff, but this idea of this awareness of your kind of inverted self, you know, your dark self, the stuff that you hide from yourself, and that I think there's power in that. Yeah, heart full of love and fist full of rage is a good line.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little more real than only love, you know. Like when,
and it's true. You bury it. If you bury it, it'll burst out of you.
There's a theme here with these
today with these songs. My song is low down boss gags, not for just for the, I mean, the groove and the low end and all that stuff is amazing. And then lyrically, I got Madison Cunningham, Plain Letters. The camera is always on the wrong side of the glass. Is there ever a flattering angle of the facts? Well, do your best impression of yourself. And that's one of the, is like, is there ever a flattering angle of the facts? It's such a kind of efficient way of putting that. And then, will do your best impression of yourself. Everyone feels that, which is like the habit of doing an impersonation of yourself.
Wow, I've never thought about that. How do you do that?
Do your best impression of yourself?
Yeah.
What I get from it is...
You're already yourself.
Are you?
I'm picturing something like a Charlie Kaufman script.
Yeah, exactly.
Where someone, like where Nick Cage plays Nick Cage, but not Nick, you know what I mean? Like literally act as himself. It could be, there's some way to write that as a script that could be really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, what I get from it is that you are identifying at any given time yourself, and that becomes a kind of pre-molded thing, and it becomes a fixed idea in your head. That's kind of it's almost a death. It's a form of death because you're not alive. So then you start doing an impression of this dead thing. That's the way I view it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like real life, you wouldn't be impersonating something, but you can picture.
Can you do it?
I'm doing it right now.
Oh, what?
No, I'm not doing. I'm not. I think it requires like.
Wait, sorry, did I miss something?
Did you miss the point?
I missed something. I'm sorry.
I think if you take yourself to be yourself all the time, then yeah, you might be missing the point. You know what I mean?
We all wear a mask. Is that what you're?
No, because that's not quite the same thing as doing an impression of yourself. I think that for me, what it's describing is mechanicality, and not like this conscious hiding and all this kind of stuff. It's a mechanical. It's like a death. It's a when something that should be alive becomes inert.
I thought you were saying to take all the different versions of how you act and make them into a caricature. And like make an impersonation of yourself.
I think that's a form of it. But the idea of yourself is not yourself.
I don't think anybody knows how they are. But unless you guys probably know more than I do, because you guys had that documentary where you had to watch footage of yourself 24/7. Did you have like an eye-opening experience afterward? Like, did you change who you were after you saw a bunch of it, or were you just like?
I did for sure. It was all very superficial changes, like just doing podcasts a lot. You learn to speak in a different way because you notice that you have certain habits and that sort of thing. Same thing with watching yourself back. You know that you do certain moves that you don't like. But that's quite a superficial, I think. It's a starting point because that it shows you even those surface things that you're generally not aware of yourself. I think Danny's getting to even a deeper level that you don't have any real sense of what and who you are. And that, like that you feel that sometimes, I think.
It reminds me of this guy talking, I think I've talked about this on there's all these different theories of how like laughter evolved. And one of them was that it evolved as a social pressure because you wanted to discourage mechanical behavior. So like slipping on a banana peel is inherently funny because it's a person who should have some awareness, losing their awareness and then turning into a little machine that slips. Mm-hmm. And so it's the imposition of the mechanical upon life was the way that this guy described the cause for laughter. And he viewed laughter as I don't know if this is true, this is his speculation, but I thought that his description of the mechanical being imposed upon something that should be alive as a useful description.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it, like why we find certain things funny.
There's obviously a social element to it. You want to it's kind of like bullying.
I thought we were I thought you were saying we were rewarding someone for acting, not acting mechanical or something.
No. I think in the case of a person like embarrassing themselves, the laughter does serve a social pressure to discourage that behavior. It's kind of a form of bullying. Maybe necessarily so, because you don't want people doing silly things.
The way you're describing what this guy's theory or thought about it is that you, as a being who presumes himself to be self-aware and not just a little robot machine, sees another being like you do something that looks like a machine, and it's like a little shock to your system to be like, ha, that guy, he's like a little robot. That's funny. Like I'm not like that. Maybe is that kind of what he's getting at?
Yeah,
Do we laugh at things that look like machines?
It's the juxtaposition. It's his whole point is not that a machine should look like a machine, but a living thing should be alive. And he was saying it was the imposition of mechanicalness on something that should be alive and aware. So it's this when you've lost yourself. Like when someone has lost their sense of themselves, sometimes they get laughed at from a kind of social pressure point of view.
Okay.
And to encourage basically awareness of yourself and kind of, correct behavior.
Dat Wan Fu, says on the chat here, I feel like Andy Kaufman understood this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He used it to the inverse to his advantage.
Yeah. All the deepest comedians are incredibly deep people, I think. I don't mean comedians like stand-up necessarily. People that understand humor deeply, I think, understand this paradox of it. And it's why it's such a powerful tool to help reveal things to people. Like we've talked about on the podcast a lot, the Mullah Nasreddin, who's this character throughout everyone's culture of this wise yet stupid man who teaches important parables via humor effectively. Like this, the simple one we always talk about is that the mullah is out in the courtyard crazily searching around. His wife comes home and says, "What are you looking for?" He says, "I lost my keys." She says, "Where did you lose them?" And he says, "In the bedroom." She says, "Well, why are you looking out here?" And he says, "Because it's light out here."
There's more light out here.
Yeah, there's more light out here. So it's like a little joke that teaches a very important lesson in it. And it's the use of humor, like a lot of the gurus, good and bad, like Osho does this a lot, where he gets his crowd laughing, and everyone does the normal laughing that they do at like a stand-up thing. Most of it feels awkward and like rote or mechanical laughing, when you're uncomfortable in a situation, like ha 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 ha. He does all that and then all of a sudden throws in some very controversial and profound statement in the middle of people's laughter. So there's like this movement that you get the people moving in a certain way, and then throw a little bead of truth perhaps so it can hit them in a different place than if you'd just been like, "All right, everybody, I'm about to get very serious."
It's like you shake a bit,
Yeah, like shake things up so that you can find the gaps to place
Something.
a moment of truth.
The mullah story I like is the guy goes to, he says, he says, can I borrow your donkey? My donkey's sick. And the mullah goes, "Oh no, I lent the donkey out earlier this week to my neighbor." And then at that moment, the donkey brays in the backyard, and the guy goes, "I just heard the donkey." And he goes, "Who are you going to believe, me or the donkey?" And it's such a kind of, it's like you could say to a person, you need to trust in your senses. You need to develop some sort of internal guidance system for yourself. And you could come up with some elaborate reason that a person should do that. But that little joke conveys so much more strongly the conflict between believing what you hear and believing what you know to be true. Yeah. And the fact that you can be divided against yourself based on something you hear. You can start to distrust yourself based on your susceptibility to another person's influence,
Yeah. Well, we always end on these kinds of deep thoughts. Maybe it's now is a good time to end it. Thank you so much for coming on and playing music for us. When we post this, we'll post all links to your music and to all your socials and all that. You're playing in Austin, I assume, a lot. Like I always see you play a lot of music and a lot of gigs. Anything coming up this week or next week? checks calendar furiously.
Look, that
Oh, don't even worry. Like we'll post it when we.
I'm actually, most of my gigs are coming up are actually in Corpus, at the Songwriter Festival in mid-February. Other than that, I'm doing a lot of like small gigs. Where else? Fulton. Yeah. Fulton at the Fairmont.
Well, yeah. Look, we'll post links to
Whiskers.
all your socials so that people can go follow and see where you're playing. And then off the air, I will pick your brain about like some good open mics, because we want to go just pop in occasionally and do some songs here and there, and like not just in Wimberley. As much fun as that one is, like we want to go play in Austin and that. But
Have you been to the Cactus Cafe?
I can answer all questions you're
Oh,
about to say
okay.
by saying no. I've not been to any of them. I got the awesome excuse of having a new daughter, so I'm just being a good dad.
Mazel tov.
Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Next week we're going to be posting the episode. We got to interview a few weeks ago one of our favorite comedians, Todd Glass. We'll stream it live. I haven't decided on the time yet, but it'll be probably on Monday, and then it'll be up on all the podcast platforms. So check that out. We'll start promoting some clips this week. Join the Discord if you're not on our Discord. A lot of cool stuff happening there. Like I said, we're going to be giving away a mix of an alternative version of When You're Here from a virtual concert that we did a few years ago. Other than that, we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye. Good evening.
Thank you. I don't know if I